Hi, I'm Streaky and today I'm answering questions, well, we're answering questions from the comments. So I'm Streaky and this is
Shay.
And if you've seen previous videos, Shay used to be my assistant, he's now moved on to better things. So, but he's in today, so we thought we'd bang a video together and answer some questions. He could ask me them and I can answer them and then whatever. And from the comments, from people that are watching the videos who I haven't had, who I want to give a kind of longer answer to, but I can't on a comment because it's mental. Yeah, far away.
First question. Do you agree that it's beneficial to take the mix out of the box to external hardware before recording it? If so, what hardware do you suggest?
So this is kind of old school where it's, really you're going to be recording through analog gear. Mm-hmm. Everyone's mixing in the box now. Every single big mix engineer that I do work with mixes in the box. There's just no way around it really if you're a working mix engineer to be able to go out of the box all the time, because if someone wants to say the drums up by a dB and you've got to then rent a studio, or if you've got your own SSL or something, then it's a half a day to set it all up and get going again. So you have to be in the box, but people still want that kind of juice of analog, which is why I still use mainly analog equipment, well 90% analog equipment, because people have been out, in the box digitally, hard, blah, blah, so they just want a little bit of analog juice. So I guess to answer his question, yeah, I would say it does make a big difference to go out and in. Mm-hmm. Really with mastering, you're doing that. I'm doing that for people.
Yeah.
After they've done the mix, if they haven't got analog stuff, I'm doing that and going out and back in. So if you watch my previous video to this one, I was saying that I don't actually mind people thinking that something's mastered when they've done it and pushing it and smashing it and doing whatever they need to do to it, as long as that, get your sound and then give it to me and I'll change that. I'll not change it, but if it needs enhancing, I'll do that. So it's a similar thing really. So I know mix engineers that are using the dangerous box, that is the stem box, that they go out of that just to add a little bit of juice. There's the silver bullet that I reviewed, so people are using that, which is more of a kind of tone amp. It's got amps in there, a little bit of Baxendale EQ, so say it needs a little bit of top or something after it's gone through a load of internal compression and stuff. Sometimes that works. That's also got a preamp on actually, so you can use it on the way in and the way out, so double your value. But it's those little boxes are becoming really popular, just flavour boxes for mixers who just want to do exactly what he's asking, where it's out. Do you use any of them at all?
I used to use a mix bus compressor just to come out, just to sort of like tickle a mix with, so not really compress it, just to get the sound of valves through it.
Yeah.
But it was just to get that flavour, like you said, that little extra juice that you get that you miss from just being completely in the box.
Yeah.
But then you've got those, like you were saying earlier, the colour palette things, which are like almost like distortion boxes or like saturation boxes that just go in, mainly just sort of transformers a lot of the time, or just running through valves, just colour boxes. But I'd say that's probably where it should stop for mixes, because then when it's going to mastering, that's when you would use the analog gear for the other processes.
To a point, but you obviously weren't watching my last video. But I was saying that I think that people should forget they're going to mastering,
right,
and they should mix things as if they're mixing it. So if you're mixing it into a limiter, that's cool, because the limiter is going to be the last thing on the chain.
Right.
So if I want it without the limiter, you can take the limiter off, and then suddenly you've got yourself a few dB again. You've got the peaks back, but that limiter being on there and you getting it to sound how you want it on the limiter means that you can send it off to people that are just reviewing it to pay you before they say whether they like the mix or what. So do you understand what I mean? I think that's a great way to go these days, rather than everyone saying, oh, it's got to be -5, and it's, -5 just doesn't have the same feel of the mix that you want. You wanted it so that it had a little bit of pushing into the compressors and being loud and stuff. If something's distorted and wrong, then
that's why it's hard to do with the referencing thing with things. It's hard to reference tracks that are ready tracks finished when you're at that minus sort of 5, minus 6
yeah,
level.
it's very difficult to know how that's going to sound. And I think a lot of people want to master stuff or want to use stuff to get it to that point and feel like they finished it. And I think it's a real eye-opener for people when they then send it to mastering and realise, oh, actually, you can get 20% more.
Yeah.
They don't realise that they think it's done and they think it sounds like, which is great for me. If I've got a reference and that's their mastered version and I'm like, right, okay, well, I'm bringing some, and even if I'm just running it through as we're talking about, and it's just adding in that flavour. Yeah. And that, because most of my gear now, most of my outboard gear are kind of flavour boxes, or I'm doing very wide EQs and stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at. I like that feel and that sound, and adding some of that kind of texture back in.
And small increment as well, like not...
Oh, big time, it's mastering, Yeah, okay.
Second question.
Yeah.
Any tips on what I can do to adopt Pro Studio acoustics to my home studio environment?
Always make sure that you're facing down the longest part of the room. These are all real basics that, you know, I'm sure that most people know already.
Reflection
points down the sides, at the front, at the back, at the above. Just anywhere. Do the mirror thing where you put a mirror along the wall.
Yeah, mirrors along the wall with absorption and diffusion at the back. Clouds.
Clouds are a massive thing, always put a cloud above your head. You'll be amazed at how that changes the stereo image of your speakers, and just focuses everything in. That was for me when I, you know, from years ago when I set up a studio, I was just like, wow, that's really totally changed it.
Yeah, it does.
I would say if you're in a very small room, make sure you haven't got massive speakers. Always get the right speakers for the room. That'll make a massive difference to the sound that you're getting. I think sometimes people think, okay, I'll just get these big bassy speakers, but the room just can't handle it. It can't. You're never going to have enough bass absorption to change the energy of the bass to heat or whatever it is that happens. But that's you'd need, like, I don't know, that much Rockwell. I don't know. It's like different. So anyway, really you want to diffuse the sound, keep it a bit live, throw the sound around the room. But reflection points are the main things. So go on GIK's site, and there's a few other manufacturers who will give you free advice on your room, and you should give them the measurements and they'll tell you where to position stuff. I would always say try and stick to thirds in your room. So you're sitting at a third of the room, and then or a third from the either a third from the front or a third from the back. That always works, because that's just, if you sit in the centre of a room, you're going to, when you get the bass coming back, it's going to cancel itself out from the bass from the front. So you're sitting in a kind of bass
hole.
Yeah. So you want to watch that. So sitting back or sitting forwards. Sonar works. Major.
I mean, little things like symmetry, like making sure that the speakers are equidistant from, like, that equilateral triangle, making sure that you're in the right spot of the room. Like, you could have all the right things and diffusion and everything going on in the room, but if you're slightly off to one side
or in a corner, or
too close to the wall with the speakers at the back. I mean, if you've got front ported speakers nowadays, you can get away with it a lot of the time, but now you're seeing a lot more side ported speakers where they're not at the back but they're still next to a wall somewhere, and all you're doing is having the sub bass end hitting a wall. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's making sure that you've got space around your listening environment and just your equal. Well,
if you look at most studios, I mean, if you look at this, for example, everything is symmetrical on either side, and that's all the way to the back of the room as well. That's everything. So the walls are symmetrical. So that's the ideal thing. So if you can get that in your house or your listening room, wherever you are, just to make sure that the symmetry is spot on, because the speakers are going to react in a different way when you've got different things happening either side of them and in front of them. So you want everything to be kind of, you know, very focused, and you're in the zone. Make sure you're in the triangle of the speakers, or, you know, you should be sitting just in front of the triangle, so you're just kind of in there. You should be able to hear that by moving around and forwards and backwards. And the angle of the speakers, like angle the speakers toe inwards, them in. Don't have them facing straight forward. The tip for that is get them so that you can't see the sides. That's what I would say. So when you're facing them, you can't see the sides of the speakers. Then some speakers have a little LED, don't they? Where it
shines like a beam of light, so you can see exactly where it is. But with a lot of those, it depends on how big the LED is, because you could be.
I've not seen that.
You've not seen those?
No.
Some do them. I know. I had a pair of, I think it was M Audio years ago, that had a little dot in, and then you could see, you were on sort of line with where it needed to be. But like you say, as long as you can look down at the speaker when you're looking through to the speaker, if you can see the sides, then you need to adjust it.
To move them.
It needs to be flat to where you're looking at it for the angle.
I think I would say also something that happens in pro studios is keep leads short.
Yep.
Keep your power away from your audio cables. Just try and keep everything as clean as possible, and symmetry, and then just work with the speakers to get them at the right height for your head. And there's loads of videos on my channel talking about this kind of thing, so I'd sort of check those out. I may even link one above on a card.
Sweet. Last question. What plugins do you use? Straight to the point.
I'm not a massive plugin fan. I use, because of the question earlier, the reason why I don't use loads of plugins is because that everyone's already used loads of plugins. I think a lot of plugins for me are quite flat sounding. I mean, I've said this a lot in videos anyway. However, I use limiters a lot. I do use digital EQ. You can see I've got a Vice here. It's outboard though, but still, the Vice plugin's really good. The DS1, I think it is.
Yeah, the new soft tube ones.
Yeah, that's cool. I never used that for limiting though. I always used that just for the DSL. I always found the limiter couldn't go loud enough for me.
Right, okay.
But it is still it's still a brilliant limiter. I've not had a chance to put it back to back with a hardware version, which I will do. I'll definitely do a video on that. Because I used to have the hardware version, but I got rid of it because I wasn't using the limiter, and de-essing, I use other things. So yeah, I like that Vice one. There's another one from Leap Wing Audio. I'll link these below, by the way. Leap Wing Audio called Dyne 1.
Right.
Which I like. That's kind of like a parallel compressor, but it can also come out and do EQ and dynamic EQ and multi-band. I use FabFilter stuff. I love the FabFilter limiter. I've always used that. That's just standard.
Yeah.
L2, still use that plugin.
Yeah.
For limiting.
That was just a staple for years, though, wasn't it?
Yes, but it's got a sound. It's got a sound. It's got that sound
of that time.
So yeah, I like that sound, and so I use that occasionally. Sonox EQ, I use sparingly, and I use their limiter. They've actually got a new limiter that I'm checking out at the moment, which is a updated version of the old one. The old one never went loud enough either. But I think most companies making limiting plugins realise that you do need to do quite a lot of gain reduction on stuff now. So they've made them, with the FabFilter does a brilliant job of it, but this Sonox one is really clean as well, really clean, and you can get some good level out of it. So check that out. What else am I using? That's it really, I think. For the moment. I mean, Slate Air.
What's that? Air and Earth.
Yeah, I use the Air on that occasionally. I mean, I don't use plugins. Like I said earlier, I use 90% out of the box and 10% plugins. I might use a plugin EQ if I'm just wanting to just have a little nudge up, say in the tops or something. I'm not a massive fan of that EQ really. FabFilter EQs are good. I mean, it's good. They're good, but it's like they just don't have the same feel. I like the sound of analog EQs, and maybe there's the before everyone says in the comments, because they say it to me all the time. Are they Acoustica plugins?
Acoustica, yeah, very good.
Yeah, everyone says about those. I've tried to check them out. It was such a ball ache to get them set up that I had to get on with my life.
Yeah.
So I carry on with that. If you are watching Acoustica, I doubt you are, but please sort us out. And then I might use them.
Yeah.
But I really hope that they put this Vice EQ as a plugin. If they do, they won't need to. No one will. If it sounds the same as that, no one will need to build another plugin EQ again, because it's a dynamic EQ and a straightforward EQ, linear phase, blah blah. It's just ridiculously good. It sounds as good as any analog EQ I've used. I've pretty much used one of these for my whole career. They used to be part of a company called Harmonia Mundi, which was a massive rig. In my first studio, it was literally the size of that wall, and it had like BNC leads on it, and you could buy a box, and it had loads. It had compressors in it and all sorts. But it was the precursor to this smaller box. And that sounded amazing. And I'd love one of those now. I know Howie Weinberg still has one in his room, and he's using it still because it just sounded so good. Although it was digital and it was early digital, it just sounded really nice. So yeah, if they can make that into a plugin, which I really hope they do, hopefully the other Vice version has gone really well, made loads of money for them, and they'll do that. Because if they do that, you'll be set up basically.
Sorted.
Yeah. What about you? What are you using?
Slate Digital all the time.
Standard, everyone's using that.
Kind of, yeah. Using it a lot for production instead of just for mixing.
Now, are you using when I was speaking to people, they're saying they're using the virtual mix rack a lot.
Yep, that's pretty much all I use. If I'm honest, that's all I use from it. The modules in the virtual.
The mastering thing on it's not that great, is it?
Don't like it. No, it's not because of the Fab Filter Pro L, for instance. Because you've got better. I think there are better limiters.
Better stuff around.
Yeah. It's the volume. I think you can get from it. You can get a good volume, but you just lose. You're getting volume at the expense of your dynamic. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the Fab Filter one, obviously you're getting rid of the dynamic, but it doesn't sound as though you are. Whereas the Slate one you do. But their saturation plugins are great.
I like their virtual tape machine.
That's good again. Yeah, very good.
That sounds good.
I used to use that a lot. I don't really use that as much anymore because
I haven't been using it. I have used it, but I don't use it. But
the new SSL native plugins, I think, are excellent.
Okay.
Really, really good. Excellent plugins
for
everything.
Sort of plugins?
The SSL G series compressor, so the bus compressor.
And how close does that sound to the?
It's the SSL compressor. Right. The channel strip. You've got an E and a G series version. And they sound like that in the Duality SSL desk that I use at work.
Right.
And it's the desk. It's it. Like there's so many other manufacturers like Waves and everyone that's copied SSL and done clones. You can tell that
everyone's
the company
done hardware clones as well.
Of course, yeah. But I mean, in terms of plugins, they all sound like an SSL, but with a colour to them. They all sound very different to a actual SSL. And when you listen to the brand, the actual brand that they've made, I think they're excellent. I've started using them a lot for sound design purposes as well, like saturation and very good plugins. Those.
Yeah, all right, I'll check those out. What else? That's it for me, really.
Yeah. Oh, IK Multimedia as well. I think they're pretty good. I like those. I like those plugins.
What? Oh, are they the people that do the Sontec that I covered, the 432?
Yeah. The new version of that
I like that. Have they got a new version of it?
Yeah, they've got a new version of an update.
Have they? Because the other one was quite close. There's a video, I'll link that there, that I did where I compared the real Sontec with their version.
I love that.
It was pretty close. It wasn't as deep, I didn't think, in sound. It didn't have the 3D-ness, which that is the problem with a lot of plugins. Really close sounding though, but just not as much gravy.
Yeah, not as much sauce.
Yeah. So it didn't, but then one's 11 grand, one's 400 quid. No, is it 400 quid?
Less than that, I think. With a full suite.
So it's obviously a big difference in price, but it's horses for courses really. Yeah. You either go in hard and buy a proper EQ or you have a plug-in.
They've got a great Pultec EQ in that as well, the EQ P1A.
Have they?
Excellent, that is really nice for broader curves. Lovely sounding.
I used to use one of those Pultec plugins years ago when it first came out. It was a UAD
one. Yeah.
And that was really good for like just going through and not having anything. Just they had modelled the sound of one that I thought sounded good as a colour thing. I haven't used it for years, so I can't. Don't quote me on that because I don't know what it sounds like now. But
they're better now because of just generally.
Why don't you, UAD, if you're watching, why aren't you doing Slate's model of monthly?
Because it's all DSP. So you'd still need the hardware to run it, which I know nowadays you think it's ridiculous. It is a bit. I only use the UAD platform to record now.
Do you need that though or not? I mean, I know you need it, but
nowadays
are they just still doing that because it's their way of stopping everybody nicking stuff?
Yes, that's what I would assume. It would be the idea, but the newer versions of them. Before it was just UAD had a Pultec that was good. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Pro Tools had their own one, which wasn't very good.
Right.
But yeah, the new ones, the IK Multimedia one is great. 3dB plus and minus, so boost and attenuate at the same.
The old classic.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. Like you boost it and attenuate it at the same frequency, but because they've got different curves, it's just like that little extra on the top. So nice.
Yeah, it's weird. I've got that cream which is based on a pool tape, Taglia or whatever. But there's no cut on it, so you can't do that. But I don't need that because you're not doing that in mastering. But it's interesting. Okay, are we done then?
I think we're done. That's the 3 questions I've got down.
Well, thanks for watching. Please let us know in the comments any plugins you're using, any other tips you have for room treatment, and what was the first question?
The first question, all that time ago, what's beneficial to come out the box? So, do you think
and if you come out the box, blah blah, you get. So please subscribe, ring the bell so that you get notified when I upload. And if you want to master with me, there is a code below for getting a little bit of money off because you made it 21 minutes into the video. Jeez,
it's geekery, that.
This is
a
long one.
It's good stuff.
Okay, thanks for watching. Until next time, bye from me and
bye from me.